Alright, what's happening everybody? It's your boy Keenan. Welcome to today's vlog. We're here to recap week 8 of the college football season. What an outstanding week that we just saw, and I have a lot of key matches that I talked about over last week for week number 8. Now I'm going to start off with the game on Thursday between the Oregon Ducks at Arizona State. At first, Arizona gave the Ducks a scare, especially with that fumble recovery, and then in the first quarter, and then right after that fumble recovery, the Sun Devils offense led by Taylor Kelly, he ended up driving for the touchdown, starting the game off 7-0. But then after that, Oregon Ducks were like, you forgot who you playing with, and now we're going to take this game seriously, and which they did. They ended up pulverizing the Sun Devils 43-21. Due to the ground game, both Kenyon Barner and quarterback Marcus Mariota had big, long touchdown runs, and that was the key to this game for the Oregon Ducks. They ended up outrunning them, running the football well on that offensive side. Next game we need to talk about, number 6 LSU had a comeback victory over number 18 Texas A&M, 24-19. They ended up forcing 5 turnovers against the Aggies, and that was the X factor of that game, and that was the decision maker of who was going to win this game. The Aggies were actually leading the way for most of the game, but because of those turnovers, the LSU Tigers ended up capitalizing over that. Also, they ended up holding star quarterback Johnny Manziel to just 27 yards rushing in that matchup. If he had another 100-yard game, I think Texas A&M could have pulled that upset. But that defense ended up stepping up and keeping containment and forcing Johnny Manziel to beat them with his arm, in which he could not accomplish that, throwing 3 interceptions in that matchup. Next game we need to talk about, number 15 Rutgers ended up killing the Temple Owls 35-10. I thought the Owls could probably pull the upset, but I still went with the Rutgers because of that defense, and plus they have a good offense overall. Gary Nova had a good game, and star running back Jawan Jameson had rushed for over 100 yards in that matchup. Next game, number 19 Clemson beat Virginia Tech 38-17. Tech has just been falling apart. Logan Thomas having a down season. I think he should stay for another year if he can. Next game we need to talk about, Oklahoma State beat Iowa State 31-10. I thought Iowa State was going to get that victory, but they ended up losing. They couldn't get anything together in the passing attack, and that running game for the Oklahoma State Cowboys ended up being the difference maker in this matchup, and that's why they won that game with star running back Joseph Randle. Next game we need to talk about, my upset pick of the week. I went with California over Stanford, but Stanford actually won 21-3 due to the ground game from Stephen Taylor, who rushed for 189 yards rushing on 27 carries. He had a big game, and he's definitely on my watch list for the 2013 NFL Draft at the running back position. Next game, number 2 Florida killed South Carolina 44-11, all due to the fact because of turnovers, and that was key for the South Carolina Gamecocks. They ended up giving that ball way too many times. Jeff Driscoll threw for under 100 yards, and threw for 4 touchdowns because of those turnovers. They ended up capitalizing off of that, and Jeff Driscoll did do well running the football. He's turning out to be a better dual threat than what I thought. He's having a good year running the football. He just needs to develop that passing game in the college level. But I think he can develop for the next upcoming seasons. And this Florida team is still undefeated, but they still have to worry about their game against Georgia, and that will be the difference maker to see who will be the SEC East champion and make it to the SEC championship between Alabama or LSU. LSU is still in the hunt. Next game, number 5 Notre Dame escaped BYU 17-14 due to a great defensive effort led by Manti Te'o, but that offense needs to step it up for the next game. They play against Oklahoma. That could be an upset, but I'll let you guys know on Wednesday's show. Next game we need to talk about, number 16 Louisville almost got upset by South Florida, and quarterback Teddy Bridgewater ended leading the team in the second half, and ended up pulling off the 2-point victory. Next game, an overtime thriller between Texas Tech and number 23 TCU, in which the Red Raiders won 56-53. That was a great game. Seth Dohey, he's having a great season, keeping the Texas Tech Red Raiders alive for the Big 12 championship. We still got a lot of games left, and I'll keep you guys posted to all the key matches. Next game we need to talk about, headed over to the Big 10 Conference. Nebraska beat Northwestern 29-28. That was a great game. I had Northwestern winning this matchup. They have a good running back in Marks, who rushed for over 100 yards, but Taylor Martinez and Amir Abdullah ended up leading that offense for the Cornhuskers and having a good comeback victory, getting a 1-point win. Next game we need to talk about, North Carolina State had a grudge match against Maryland. Maryland was undefeated in ACC Tennessee played before this matchup, but they ended up getting a 2-point loss, 20-18. That was a great game. Next game, we need to talk about a big defensive showdown between in-state rivals Michigan and Michigan State. They ended up holding it down on the defensive side, and this was pretty much a field goal game. Ended up going for Michigan 12-10. That was a great matchup. Next game, going back to the SEC, #1 Alabama killed the Tennessee Vols 44-13. Tennessee tried to keep up with Alabama. They were just way too much. They're just too much strong of a team, and they're too much looking like an NFL team. Seriously, this is a great team who rebounded from all their losses that they had last season, and it ended up surprising everybody, including myself, staying #1 overall this year. Next game we need to talk about, this was the biggest upset for me. Number 13, West Virginia got killed at home at Morgantown over against Kansas State, 55-14. Collin Klein, he's now my new front runner for this year's Heisman Trophy. He's leading his team to a big victory. And Geno Smith, he's still in my top 5, but because of this loss, he definitely lost his Heisman chances. He can still rebound later on in the season if he has a spectacular year and Kansas State lose a couple of games, but we will see. If Kansas, this is my strong opinion about Collin Klein, if Kansas State remains undefeated before the BCS before the BCS championship, Collin Klein should win that Heisman Trophy. He's a true leader, and I'm looking forward to see how he perform in the NFL at quarterback or as an athlete in the National Football League. But we will see. He needs to work on his throwing motions and throwing the football, just like how Tim Tebow did during his time at Florida. Next thing I need to talk about, this was a upset alert that I called out. Toledo and Cincinnati. Toledo ended up pulling off the upset, remaining with just one loss in this season with their first game against Arizona. They ended up pulling the 29-23 victory. That was a big upset, giving Cincinnati their first loss of the season. Next thing you need to talk about, in-state rivalry, a big basketball rivalry between Duke and North Carolina converted into the football rivalry. Both of these teams were 5-2, and this was a great game.